These before I go to bed. I've got to calm down from how mad I get.
So you got like
we're live, by the way.
I hope it didn't go live.
Let me check the thing.
I mean, I just pushed the live button, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. What did you say? Was something racist?
It's a Crofton joint.
I had something new I was gonna do.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
something new I was gonna do, like a new bit.
No, I was gonna move away from the 3 thing.
Oh.
I had some. I was thinking about it the other day while I was biking in. I was like, oh, I should do something different, and I had something.
Man, that's something I should think about. My intro is the lamest, but I've not put ever any thought into how to make it any better. But good for you, Crofton. I give you credit for your.
Oh, it's your turn to intro, and you're trying to think of an intro. Okay, I'm all caught up.
No, he wanted to do something completely different. Not completely, yeah, probably. Let's just give him one. Okay, Crofton says that he's Winston Churchill, and I'm the FDR, and Bo is the Mussolini.
Okay. Can you guys smile for the camera or make a face? Can you guys just do a thing for me? Okay, it's done.
I gotta scowl a little.
That's fine. It's perfect.
That's my shtick. My dad is so curmudgeon-y. If I get it, if I become like him, God help us all. Because I'm already pretty curmudgeon-y.
I'd like if I could go back in time, one of the things that I would like to do is go back and meet 37-year-old Richard Hodgins Sr. or Dick Hodgins and see what he was at as a 37-year-old. And then
I'm curious too. And the thing is, like, I was alive when he was probably 38 or 39. Yeah. And I have a lot of memories of early childhood, but the more I think about them, I'm like, I didn't, you don't think about your parents that much. I'm trying to remember, what was he like? Because he's definitely half crazy now.
Yeah, that's his father.
He wasn't that different, but he was just more controlled. But anyways,
he's yeah. No, that's true.
My dad's a good example of someone who can be pretty funny sometimes. In conversations, he can put it on pretty well. But he is crazy.
All right, we're almost there. We're almost at the finish line, you guys. Sorry about that.
I cannot go into a store with him. It's getting worse and worse. He walks into the store and basically just shouts what he's looking for at the store. Like, he'll walk in with his hands in the air. Where do I find nails? 3-inch nails. Like, he'll walk in, and then there'll almost always be someone there who works there. But he'll just and then they'll go over and then he'll complain to me after we leave about how service sucks nowadays in stores. I'm like, well, Dad, you walk in the store and scream at people.
Give me service.
It's getting like I'm just like, oh God, I'm like waiting because I'm the embarrassed.
He's kind of like if because you're talking about being a comedian a little earlier. If you ever got your own sitcom, you'd have a perfect it's like George Costanza's dad, but it would be like your very own.
He is kind of like George Costanza's dad.
Serenity Now.
That show. Oh, if you guys haven't watched the Norm Macdonald podcast with when he talks to Jerry Seinfeld,
I've heard that. Yeah, it was actually pretty not serious.
I enjoyed that.
It was very
interesting, the behind the scenes with the Comedy Store and how Jerry had this falling out. Did you? With that, it's just the inner workings of New York comedy. Anyway,
a lot of that podcast seems to be that. I mean, he's mostly talking to comedians, but they just talk about like nuts and bolts of living out the same people. And
there's a new one with Caitlyn Jenner. It's actually pretty interesting too. The thing I learned from that show is having breasts helps you play golf better.
Oh, okay. Like, I often wonder, like, is there something wrong? Like, is he in ill health, or I don't know. He just seems kind of weird. Like, there's something weird about him. Mm-hmm. He was doing one bit with someone where someone was like, it's like you're drunk. He's not drunk, but it's like you're a drunk person. And I don't know, like, is that like is that his shtick, or is he like that all the time? That's what I'm curious.
Who are you referring to?
Norm Macdonald himself.
Oh, I don't know, but there was a funny moment in the Caitlyn Jenner one. You'll have to watch for it, where they talk about they're talking about trans people, and they're like, "Well, trans people they get a lot of work in the sex industry," and he's like, and then Norm sort of pauses, and then he's like, there's this. He was starting to tell a story about a guy he knew, and then he stopped, and he was like, maybe I shouldn't talk about this. And I was like, oh, he might be a client. I thought that was pretty funny. It's a really good moment. They left it in there, so I thought that was super hilarious. That's got nothing to do with anything other than it was a highlight of a more serious episode. Anyways, I'm good to go. We're ready to record a show. I want to say we can acknowledge the chat room now.
Hello, chat room.
Once we're starting the show, we won't be able to talk to you. So hello, Wicked Kitten, or aloha, as you say.
Hello.
There. And
all of you.
Did she live in
Hawaii? Says,
Hawaii?
"Oh shit! I was listening to episode 200. You talking about Twitch, and there you are." Yep.
Why?
We talked
if
about
I
Twitch
was
a lot.
American, I would move straight to Hawaii. It seems like, why would you want to live in the continental United States? I guess a job is a short answer.
Well, what about hurricanes?
Whatever. Hey, I looked up a fact about that Texas one. You know how much water is dumped there. It's been like some crazy amount. But the record is still from like 50 years ago in Hawaii. They had a bigger rainfall event than the one in Texas that just happened. By a small amount. It was close to breaking it, but it still stands. I guess the Hawaii.
I
one.
think Mike is a Vermont kind of guy if he was moved to the States.
You hear that, Hurricane Harvey? Suck it. You can't.
I do
Hawaii.
like Vermont. I met some lady from Vermont the other day in a park, and I was like, "Hey, Vermont!" I'm like, "You're like the good part of the United States," and she's like, "It's because it's kind of like Canada." I'm like, "Yeah, maple syrup and all."
Yeah, maple syrup that you've reduced Canada.
It's true. It's true. Vermont makes the most maple syrup in the United States, and they're laid back people.
Yeah.
I feel like Mike's on a non sequitur kick right now.
I am a little bit. I mean,
Okay. Let's get started.
It's just like bang, bang, bang.
Let's get started.
Right.
I said hi to the chat room. Hello, hello, hello. New England's nice as well. DeGome says, "Are you all Canadian?" The answer is yes. This is a 100%
Canadian podcast.
Yeah.
welcome to our socialist paradise.
We spell podcast with a U.
I saw the best meme today. You guys know the movie It? Just really briefly. You know the movie It?
The miniseries
from the book?
Well, it doesn't matter. I don't know which is from, but the clown is in the sewer and says, "Come on down here," right? And the girl gets in. Yeah, so the thing in the meme was like, "Come on down here. Trump doesn't rule down here." And the girl just pauses and goes, "Okay, I'm coming." and goes in. Trump has no power down here. And the girl gets in.
That's little does she know that's where he gets his power.
Yeah. All right, let us begin. Crofton, are you ready for to be master of revels today? Mike is the random topic generator oiled.
So, yeah.
You know what? Technically, I got to pee. I'll be right back.
Technically? What about in theory? Good Lord, Mike.
What?
It's a full hour.
Was I yawning too much?
No. I laugh at our inability to start on time.
Wow.
And I say our, the royal we, include all of us in our very...
I still laugh at that Magic the Gathering card you made for crafting because it's so applicable. It's like, take extra time to do your turn.
Yep.
It's
Ask
really
questions
fun.
and not get it anyways.
I love how it's like, now finally play the card as you normally would, which is to say you played it correctly. It really made me laugh.
Yeah.
It's so on point.
Yeah, I really nailed that one. It was probably my best work because I was in my prime back then.
In my prime.
Wonder where is that image? Put it up in the stream.
I'm trying to make this chat room thing work.
Did you log in with an account?
No, I'm not going to make an account. God damn it,
You
I hate
should still
accounts.
be able to see chat though.
Whatever. No, yeah, you can watch it. I just have to pause the stream. So
Okay, I'm back.
an echo chamber.
We were just saying how true that image of you in a Magic the Gathering card was.
Well, the image was also funny, but it was the
Hello?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to you, Mike.
Mike sort of drifted off.
Just a sec.
He's creating an account. What's he doing? Why is he looking at us so intently?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, can we start the show? I'm ready to go.
Just hold on.
What is wrong?
We're never starting the show. We've established this. There, I found
What
it.
is wrong with him?
He wants to.
Okay. Good.
Okay, did you satisfy yourself?
What a weird mystery.
I don't know.
He was feeding the geese.
I was trying to make the chat room work, though I'm gonna ignore it for the show. But
I put Crofton's Magic the Gathering card over his face in the stream now. All right.
All right, let's
get started. This is Good, Bad, or Bullshit, episode 201. And it's going to begin recording in 5 seconds. 4 seconds. 3 seconds. Oh, shit. I forgot to mute this.
Bo!
What? Whoa.
I almost blew my...
That's perfect. We should keep it.
No. I'll keep the clip because he went F-Bo. I might have stopped recording though. How do I mute the clip? Okay. Good, Bad, or Bullshit, episode 201. Season 3 begins today in 5 seconds. 4 seconds. 3.
Hello and welcome to the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast. We're into a new centennial of episodes. My name is Crofton Steers. I am the handsome one. With me, as always, are my two co-hosts. I'm talking about the smart one, Mike Hodgins. How are you,
guess
Mike?
I'll take it.
And the third one, Bo Schwartz. Hey,
Hello.
Bo.
How are you, everybody? Wait, I missed what you said what the first one was. You called Mike the smart one.
I was the handsome one. You're the third one.
Wouldn't be
Wow. You didn't give me anything?
quirky?
I did. The third.
Okay.
Numerically, you're the third one I introduced. Also third in importance. Also, your voting power is third.
Okay. You say that, but I have all the dials in front of me here. I have the dials of power. I can put pictures of
Hey, you guys want to
All
know what I saw today?
What's
no.
that?
I saw in the sky. I
Oh,
saw.
I can beat you to it. It was a double?
A double rainbow.
Yeah, it was a double rainbow
it too?
day today. I saw that too.
Did you see it, Crofton?
No, I was inside a concrete bunker all day, but good to know something nice happened.
Oh
Yeah, it
man,
was
you really
nice.
missed out.
I haven't seen one in a long time, and it was pretty solid. It hung around for like 30 minutes at least.
Yeah, it was. I only saw the one rainbow at first, and then slowly it dawned on me. I even took some video, and slowly it dawned on me that there was a very faint second rainbow, and I was like, "It's really happening."
A double rainbow.
It's really happening. I saw this as a meme on the internet. I can't believe it's happening in real life now. I'm so amazed.
That meme had some legs, dude. It went around. But the thing is, I think there's often, if there's at all a good rainbow, there's almost always that double rainbow. It's usually super faint, but this was a pretty good one for a double rainbow.
Yeah, the original rainbow was a very strong band of colors. I really enjoyed it.
Could you guys stop rubbing the fucking rainbow in my face? I didn't see the
Whoa.
goddamn double rainbow.
Also, you might be able to see this tonight. It might only been last night, but apparently the Aurora Borealis is going to be visible in our neck of the woods. Was yesterday, but there was some cloud cover. The Northern Lights, some people call it.
Do I need glasses to look at it?
No.
What
You
if
need
I need?
eyes.
What if I need glasses normally? Then I
They-
probably still need them to
yes.
look at
It
it.
would just look more blurry, I guess. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I have a thing to bring though. I have a thing. We have a thing to talk. I have to talk about here. We don't usually talk about our Patreon stuff at the beginning of the show, but we've set a new goal. And
Like a load.
long story short, there was a conversation that happened on Twitter that involved a great listener, Jimmy the Shovel. I don't know if I can say people's Twitter's handles. on the
It's
show.
like a mob name. You
Yeah.
beat someone in the
Hey,
back with
I'm
a
Jimmy the
shovel.
Shovel. I hit them with a shovel. That's a terrible accent.
It was horrible. Keep going.
He suggested that we should make a goal out of Mike shouting at a wall for 20 minutes straight.
Well, the context was that go check out our vaccines episode if you haven't. I think I was going on a rant instead of rather talk to a
Really?
wall. than an
Wow.
I know, believe it or not. I'd rather talk to a wall for 20 minutes than an anti-vaxxer. And then so he was like, I would like to see this or something along those lines.
Yeah. So
And yeah,
so Mike
I-
set a Patreon, basically inadvertently somehow set a Patreon goal for himself, which was if we get 3 patrons,
3 new patrons.
we'll make a video of him shouting at a wall for 20 minutes.
It won't be shouting. Then I'll have a conversation with the wall.
No,
It might get heated.
I think
you know,
it's got to
just
be
incentive.
heated, or people are going to feel a little ripped off. We got to get you a good
Well,
topic.
And
Depends
just
what
to,
the conversation is.
just to be clear, it's got to be a new conversation with a wall. It can't be you going and finding an episode of
Oh.
GBB where you've spoken 20 minutes straight and just replaced us with the wall.
Every conversation I do is new and unique. Who knows what I'll talk about? And I think if I'm not mistaken, Bo, we're only one.
Yes.
So one.
So
patron,
we've had 2
one new
people
patron away.
patronize us on the internet, and so Jimmy the Shovel did subscribe. So thank you, sir. And a gentleman who goes by Father Dante on the internet also subscribed. So that's 2. Who's going to be the 3rd and best
Any
one?
amount.
Any
We
amount.
set the bar low
well,
here.
It makes
Very
me
low.
want to be a patron of my own podcast.
You would be
It's-
disqualified.
we'd have to
Oh.
disqualify that. It can't count.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
But
so
your
yeah,
mom
go and-
counts? Come on.
No, she's not
Well,
part of this goal. These are 3 unique subscribers that'll forever be known as the Wall Trio.
Hi, Bo's mom.
special status. And I'm gonna say this challenge closes at the end of the month.
Yeah, so you only have 21
When October
days.
comes,
I'm sure
Be a
we'll
patron.
find somebody. We'll find somebody. Clown Baby,
All right.
maybe
like,
we'll
can't be contrived, but whatever.
Clown Baby.
You know,
1, 2,
if this
3, 4.
works
Maybe he'll give
and
us
we're
some money.
actually successful, well, then we're going to have to start coming out with more of these things.
Well,
No,
anyways, it was good that it came from a listener. I think that's it's an organic way for these things to
Yeah,
evolve.
it's going to start with like just very organic Mike talking to a wall for 20 minutes type things. And then it's just going to turn into like Steve-O on Jackass throwing Bo off buildings or something like that.
Everything's got to start somewhere, Crofton.
10 patrons for that.
That was gonna be more than that to be thrown off a building.
Just $1 each. So $10 for good.
I was incidentally over at Crofton at your house today, as you know.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there. Painting on your roof, and I sat on the roof, and I don't know if it was a neighbor of yours, but I would have guessed the kind of quasi homeless lady. She had sort of drug mouth. You know what I mean?
I live in a nice neighborhood, so I don't know what you
I'm
mean.
just telling you, someone
Wait.
walked down the street who had total drug mouth going on.
Drug mouth. You're talking about like methamphetamine.
I don't know. You got like no teeth, and you're like 40, and it wasn't.
She
it was
could
weird.
just have like some sort of condition. How do you know
Would
it's
it be
drug?
blowjob
No.
mouth?
There's no such thing as
Well.
blowjob mouth.
Well, that's gross, but drug mouth is
No,
fine.
no, wait a
Yeah,
second.
well-
I said there's no such thing. I didn't say it was gross.
Look, and I'll just say I have compassion.
Well,
for people
okay, maybe
on
there is a
drugs.
such thing in the short term, but we're talking long term.
Anyways, okay, don't stop sidetracking me here. So the lady with the drug mouth gave me hell for being on the roof. She was like, "You're gonna fall off that roof. What do you think you're doing up there?" Anyways, we had a quasi-philosophical conversation. I said to her, "I'm like, well, what if a satellite fell out of the sky and hit me, or a bus ran over me on the street? You can't live life like that." Here I am up on the roof.
And she's like, that makes sense. Make room for me up there, Sonny, and I brought some
actually-
drugs.
Actually, then she said her husband fell off a scaffolding last year and was killed. And
Wow,
then
too soon.
yeah, then it got really serious, and then she was like, "Just be safe," and I was like, "Okay, thanks for that." But it started off kind of weird.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, sketchy neighborhood you
That's a
lived in
good
there,
story. But also, thanks to our patrons, we need one more, and you'll get more stories like that shouted at a wall.
Carl. Sure.
Yeah, he's this close to, you know.
Yeah.
If I was a wall, that would have been perfect.
That was like a trailer of what you'll get for 20 minutes.
All right. Speaking of trailers, we need them to haul around the random topic generator, which is the machine we use to draw a topic every episode. Gentlemen, I think it is that time of the show. We have preambled. Let us
Yes.
now amble.
Make sure to close your mouth so you don't breathe in any of the smoke. You don't want to get blowjob.
Go about that.
This is awesome. Sometimes What are you guys laughing at?
I can't stop thinking about blowjob. I don't know why.
Oh my gosh.
It's just
But-
funny as a condition. Anyways, pardon me, everyone.
Well, no, but one leads to the other. You start off with drug mouth, then you need money for drugs, and then you got,
you got blowjob
follow
mouth.
through.
You have to drink
So-
some water.
Sometimes I feel like the random topic generator is like connected into the universe because the topic today
Oh no.
is something that lady would know a lot about: recreational drugs. That's the topic.
Oh wait, no way.
Full random, and I was like, I
Wait.
can't believe it.
Really? Okay. And I'm not saying really like bad. I'm surprised that the random topic generator would
I am
pick
too, and I would,
recreational drugs.
if I was you guys, I would accuse me of having tampered with it, but I assure you, I did not.
Well,
You are the smart one.
look, I would accuse you of it, except I've seen the engineering of the machinery, and it's very sophisticated.
It's hard to
And
tamper, 'cause it's not like
Mike
these
is handy, but he's not technically inclined in that way.
I'm also a paragon of virtue.
Yeah. But people who use recreational drugs are often not painted that way in society. My question to you guys is what is the line, the parameters around recreational drugs? Is it there's drugs used for medicinal purposes?
Yeah.
Is it any drug that is used like it's
You're
hard
getting
drugs,
close to it.
hard drugs, soft drugs?
No,
Does
no.
it matter?
Well, because
It's
I was
when
like,
you
you wanted
do
to
it for
find some like.
entertainment.
Pleasurable
you do
drugs.
you do it for entertainment, so you get
Yeah,
fucked
well,
up.
okay, hold on. Let me say the topic.
It's a painkiller, but
Just
it's also
look, stop. Let me say the topic again. Recreational drugs.
But, like again, I come back to my question. Some drugs can be used for medicinal purposes.
Right. Okay, so if you're using a drug for medicinal purposes,
Yeah, but that
you're
drug.
probably not doing it for recreational purposes.
Okay, so it's the recreational use of drugs. It's not the
Yes,
drugs.
it could be
themselves.
any drug. Like you could be taking OxyContin because you like it. You're doing it because you like it, or you want to get high. You're not doing it because your doctor's like, your freaking spine is busted. Here's some OxyContin.
That's
One
not
may
recre-
lead to the other, but
Yeah.
at some point you're doing it.
On the other end, I have another parameter question. I'm sure Mike will try to answer, and we'll interrupt him a whole bunch.
I'll do my best.
Is caffeine not recreational, right? Like you use it to be mood altering, but you and your friends don't go out to the park and load up on a bunch of beans and go, like it. Cigarettes as well, not recreational.
I don't know. I mean, look. At some point, addiction sets in, and that's maybe a different conversation. Addiction. Yeah. I mean, often these recreational drugs, one leads to the other. But for sure, I have drank coffee for the. In fact, I can remember one day, many years ago, with you, Bo, where we went to a second cup.
Oh, good.
And I had some. I don't know what the hell kind of coffee it was, but I was buzzing like mad, and I was ranting at you for like 2 hours.
You were a coffee virgin for the most part, as long as I'd known you. I think, right? Like.
I think I was getting on coffee at that time, and it really was like
okay,
I was.
So that counts as recreational use.
Sure,
we're there engaged in conversation, and Mike was like, "Oh my god, I have an idea for a play, and we're gonna write a play, and it's gonna be great. Oh, you should keep writing. What is it?"
I was like manic.
Yeah, it was a wonder to watch, especially as someone who just needs coffee to function. Which that's a great place to start this conversation. Often the use of drugs increases your tolerance of it. And then you need them to feel "quote unquote" normal.
I guess so, but like
kind of a
sticking
shitty thing about them.
to the recreational. So look, I have not experimented that much with the drugs. I like coffee. That's for sure my favorite drug. I have drank some alcohol and been very drunk, but I don't drink much at all, and I almost never drink now, and I've never had an issue. But I've used alcohol recreationally. And I've smoked some marijuana, though that does not do much for me. And that I've only done a handful of times, and that's it. That's all I've done. And that's maybe more than some people, but a lot less than that lady who walked by Crofton's house this morning.
It's more. Well, you don't know that for sure. Also,
she had drug mouth.
Yeah.
Let's stay away from the mouth.
You don't get that from coffee.
Symptoms.
Oh,
wait. I'm pausing the conversation. Beep, 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 beep. This just in. We got our third patron. Mike's talking to a wall.
Really?
It's happening, folks. Thank you to
right.
Sean
Yes.
I'll get it up in a
for
week.
making
All
that
right.
happen.
So,
Anyways,
I'm
continue.
wondering if it's
Continue.
related to the wall or related to
Well,
jumping off.
hold on? Do I wait out the month and add
Maybe we stretch it
minutes?
up. Yeah, we'll have to talk about it. But
Yeah.
let's get back to the
Let's get back
topic
to it,
because
yeah.
a lot of
Sure.
the audio listeners are going to be. So I guess my background is that I'm what the cool kids call straight edge. What the non-cool kids and most people my age call boring.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think it was the cool kids who
You
called
drink
it.
Pepsi. You're not straight edge.
Yeah, no, I drink a lot more caffeine now than I ever did. I only have been drinking coffee for the past 4 or 5 years or so. I didn't drink it like in university or anything like that. I don't drink alcohol. I don't consume recreational drugs in any way, shape, or form, which you would think would put me kind of like on the negative side of this topic because I choose not to do it. But like, and I don't know if it's the libertarian in me or whatever, but like, it just feels to me like, when people are like, well, I should be allowed to, it's my body. I should kind of be allowed to put whatever I want in it. Like, while cognizant of the cost to our healthcare system, I see merit to that point. So passing the baton on to you, Bo, and your recreational drug use.
I think I have the most hours worked.
Surprise!
I have the highest cumulative dose at lifetime, but not in recent years. But I was a daily weed smoker in last year of high school and the year after, and but a lot of it was younger days. I've been incredibly wasted several times. I've probably done other drugs that the weed I was sold was laced with. That's definitely happened, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I know, yeah. I think there was one time where my friend came over to my house when I was a teenager, and I don't know what we did for 4 hours, but we kept repeating the same words to each other and then telling each other to shut up, and we couldn't move. And it was like, we just smoked weed, and I'm like, it was clearly something more than weed in there. But haven't.
And I have enjoyed seeing Bo possibly the most drunk of any human being I've ever met before. He's done, he's not a regular drinker, but man, have I seen him
Right.
in his
The most
teenage
recent
age.
drunk time was Crofton's bachelor party.
No,
In Montreal. No,
Mike's bachelor party.
wasn't yours? Oh, Mike's was more. Yeah,
Mike's
it was Mike's.
was the one where you slept on the lawn.
So we were in Montreal and we went out. Whatever. That's not the story. We went out till like 3 a.m. and did bar things. Everyone came back to the hotel, and for some reason I was getting angry, and I told you guys I was going to get ice cream, and I never came back. And long story short, I walked all the way up to the top of Mount Royal. I know I did that.
Montreal.
Yeah, and then climbed down the other side and fell asleep in someone's front lawn, and then woke up and took a cab home at like 9 a.m. or to the hotel.
By
so
home,
bad.
he means the hotel we were staying at.
Yeah, my home was those people. I don't even know who they were. Their front yard. I'm so glad no one woke up in front of that house and said, called the cops. It's like it's a dead body on their front lawn.
No, but
and so do you count cigarettes then as a recreational drug, or is that just you're just so mired in addiction?
I think we have to, because the trajectory I mentioned earlier was really important, which is like you start at first and it's exciting. Let me tell you why I started smoking. In my teens, I got really into theater writing and into theater and into writers, and I wanted to be a writer. And like all the writers I read were like from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 50 years ago. Like a lot of them smoked and acted cool, and I just wanted to be cool. And back then you could smoke inside, and so there was this great little cafe, this Danish place with like on Sussex, I think. You know where the U.S. Embassy is now, across the street from there, where like Black Tomato is. That used to be a cafe. I used to get my Camels and go in there, smoke cigarettes, and read like books, and be like, "Oh, I'm so cool. I'm artiste, reading literature and hanging out in the really attractive these two attractive like Danish girls, and it was their father who owned the place, and so I like to go in there and
Dankebo.
pretend I was like all cool. And that's really what got me into like smoking as like a thing, because it was a lifestyle and I wanted to be cool, and it did make me feel like it does do something to your brain where I feel like I'm absorbing information at a better rate or something. Like I just, the same effect that you might have had with coffee at that time. Now I don't feel anything. In fact, I just needed to feel normal. But
normally
yeah.
I would protest about including stuff like cigarettes and stuff like that, but I don't really, because in the end, like, not every single recreational drug, but most of them are addictive in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And like, so, or have addictive properties.
Sure. I mean, I would just say the psychedelics are not technically addictive.
But like,
But
I mean,
that's a huge branch.
that's a branch, but I'd say most is more than 50% of all recreational drugs are of some form, like anything from like, painkillers to like and opioids, which is
But like the opioids is a pretty big thing. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but there are a lot that say aren't technically addictive.
There are a lot, but I would say it's the minority of rec drugs. Most rec drugs are designed or are designed or exist in some way that they'll get you they get you hooked in, and that's for me, again, like, while I wouldn't begrudge anybody from choosing to try drugs and this, or to experiment in moderation and that sort of thing. Like, becoming a drug addict is obviously a hugely negative thing, and the sliding scale of what recreational drugs consist of, like when we're talking about coffee or cigarettes or weed, marijuana, and then we're like comparing that to, like, I don't know,
Heroin. Yeah.
or even cocaine or crack or crank or crud or like whatever, like
PCP.
Is crud one?
Or
I haven't heard of crud.
So
crud.
no, I'm just downgrading cocaine to its basis form. But like, I just think like the addictive nature of the drug themselves, where I'm sort of stuck with this, is like, I don't begrudge people for using it, even though I don't partake in many of them myself. But at the same point, like, in terms of labeling recreational drug use as good, bad, or bullshit, I don't see much in terms of positive, other than the fact that it seems like every friggin' major musician I like made their best music while high.
Yeah, well, no, but you know what? That's actually, I think, a pretty interesting point. And I don't want to, before I delve into my thoughts on all good music coming from heroin, there is the elephant in the room of addiction, which you mentioned, and that again could be its own. Well, it would be hard to have a topic about that, because you wouldn't be like, addiction is good. It's hard to say that's good, but I think there is a school of thought that where some people would say, you hear some things like, okay, opioids and whatever are chemically addictive. If you take them, you'll become addicted, and there is definitely truth to that and whatever. But there's also a lot of people who will say things like addiction is not actually about drugs; it's about some other underlying issue, and that drugs then fuel that. Like, again, saying that maybe most people who wind up, say, on the streets hooked on drugs often have suffered traumas in their youth, have mental health issues, and drugs are a way of coping with that, and then addiction forms from that. And I think of this because I've heard stuff like, you think of crack as a super addictive drug, but I heard some statistics that something like only like 10% of people who try crack get addicted to it, and I remember I worked with some random dude who was like at a call center, and he was like, yeah, I tried crack once. And I was like, and I remember thinking that was so weird, and I guess he never did it again. And you'll hear, there are lots of stories about these very addictive drugs where some people will do them a lot, and then
I know somebody firsthand who said it. Somebody very surprising.
Who did crack?
Yeah, I don't know if I can say it though.
Well, you don't have to out someone.
But
I mean,
well, all right. I think my dad said it to me actually. And if you know my
I
dad,
see your
my
dad.
dad's like he can pound beer away every day, and he's a fully functioning, for the most part, human being. I mean, he takes care of his kids. He's never been. You would never say he's an alcoholic, but he has drank quite a bit, long periods of time. He will pack away quite a bit, and he admitted he never talked about this for a long time. He admitted trying it once and said it was all right, not addicted,
Well,
and was never addicted. So,
well, you
and
know,
that's
Bo,
and that's the
I don't-
point I wanted to
My
bring
point.
up is that, like, you see there are alcoholics. I've been raging drunk. I've done embarrassing, dumb things. I've come back to my circle of friends with blood all over my shirt, drinking beer. I've never had an alcohol addiction.
Yeah. And alcohol is a super interesting one because you do get people's lives who are destroyed by alcohol, where they drink themselves literally to death in their 30s. Addiction in alcohol is a huge thing. But like I drink alcohol from time to time, and it's not a problem for me. So yeah, again, I think those points are valid and they're worth considering. So if someone's like into recreational drugs, you might want to say like, yeah, why don't you try, dude? I got some sweet fentanyl here. Why don't you try some? It's like, you don't go for the one that is like ridiculous. There are definitely some. They're not all equal. And I think maybe that's your point, that there's some drugs it's like you could do recreationally in theory, but like why would you do that one unless you maybe you already had so many problems, or you just want to like ramp up the high is not good enough. And I think there's probably other underlying issues there.
I would say that like in defense of crack baby Bo's comment, I would say that I find that we're all coming off as sort of defensive of recreational drugs to a certain extent, and I think the reason that is happening is because of the way that drugs in general are portrayed in society and the overwhelming sort of actions that have been taken by anti-drug crusades, such as the American, the Reagan era war on drugs and that sort of thing, and like what feels kind of like overkill on that side. And that we grew up with this, and that we were constantly told drugs are bad, okay, over and over. And as we grow up as an adult, and we look at some of the especially drugs like marijuana, which is being decriminalized, legalized in Canada. I think about the overreaction, and I feel that I want to be defensive of rec drugs, or I want to, or that sort of drug use, or defend people's right to use them. But I don't have any like really majorly drug addicted friends, like of serious drugs, or had to deal with someone or do an intervention. And I know the addictiveness is something that Mike's already sort of talked about, but there's like literally like an opioid crises going on in multiple places, and including the city that we live in, which I'm kind of blissfully unaware of. But there's serious problems with the use of that drug, and you can get to the root of what the issues surrounding the choice to use these drugs are. Just like there's been First Nations up in northern communities that have been, sniffing gas, and that's their recreational drug of choice due to situation that brings them to that point. I just find that it's tough separating like my feelings of like how we've overkilled on the negatives associated with drug use to the realities nowadays of drug use, because there's got to be some sort of balance.
Well, yeah, I think, yeah, it's just what you're saying really resonates. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I feel like there's two different things. Like, I think like when it's like, oh, it's the weekend, like I can't wait for pot to be legal, because I know at least one time I'm gonna buy a mountain of food and a mountain of dope, and just go to town, eat food, watch Game of Thrones all weekend, and get high. Like, that's gonna happen. That's gonna, even if I just do it the one time, I'm like, it's cool. That's what I'm gonna do. But that's like a recreational use. But then you start getting to using it. It's also mood altering. Like, as someone, when I was a teenager, and I felt like I woke up and like I felt crappy, or I felt depressed, or I felt like people wanted me to do things I didn't want to do. I could wake and bake and start my day and just be high and be in this other state. And that's on weed. And that's like a recreational drug, but that's not recreational use. That becomes self-medicating, which you can do with all the mood-altering drugs. I don't think you can self-medicate with cigarettes and caffeine and sugary foods, but you can definitely do that with mood-altering drugs. And you could say, oh, it's recreational. I just recreate every day. But like at a certain point, you're covering a psychological problem. And I think there's no solve to that when it comes to drugs.
I mean, yeah, like, but look, caffeine is mood altering. It alters my mood to good from whatever it was.
Yeah, but it doesn't alleviate. It's not distracting, I think, in the same way as alcohol.
I don't know. I find like it really does. Anyways, like I feel its effects, even though I'm thoroughly addicted to it. Yeah. And I guess I'm not a heavy.
They all definitely have effects. I'm just saying, like, there's loss of control associated. Like, there's definite large changes with a certain subset of rec drugs.
No, and it's true. Like, and this overriding point, I think, is a super valid one about recreational drugs. And being that we've all been light users of it, it seems like from what Bo said, he's only not done like he's only smoked cigarettes compared to say what I've done. And I know Crofton has tried alcohol, but I don't think he really even got drunk. You've maybe tried a few drinks now and then, but like I know people who have done certainly ecstasy, which what is it, MDMA? Is that the same thing? MDMA, all kinds of psychedelics who are like normal people. They're not on drugs all the time. They just have tried it or something. Shrooms for sure. I know lots of people have tried those things, and it's like whatever. They're not like. Oftentimes they're like, oh yeah, I tried that 20 years ago, once or twice, whatever. And that's that. That's like pure recreational drug use. You tried it, see what it's like or whatever, and the whole like this leading to addiction is again like it's the whole other problem of like people have underlying issues and the recreational drugs go to a bad place right away. But trying to come back to the focus on like it being the recreation aspect of it, because this stuff like it's always gonna be a problem because people have mental health issues. We have an unjust society largely still, so a lot of people live shitty lives and have shitty experiences and are gonna try to self-medicate somehow. So that will always be an issue. And just sort of a little sub thing, I'm watching this documentary. I'm in this Ken Burns documentary phase now on Netflix.
Of course you are.
They're kind of good. Anyways, there's a few on Netflix, but the last one I watched was about what's it called in the States in the 1920s?
The Great Depression.
Prohibition.
No, where they banned alcohol.
Prohibition.
It was all about prohibition. It was like 18 hours of prohibition video. Really interesting. And this is like giant experiments. They did it for 13 years in the States. And the main lesson, and people kept saying this, is like you can't legislate morality. And people wanted to have alcohol, and it's used as a recreational thing, and people use it anyway. So the whole like criminality of it, and they did it for the same reason we have these arguments today about these other drugs, which was that there was a portion of society that was destroying families, destroying lives. Alcohol was doing that before prohibition, and then they put prohibition in, and it still was doing that. It might have had some positive effects, but it had other negative effects of like organized crime all of a sudden just exploding. So the thing is, like, that aspect is all really interesting, but the fact is, like, human beings, there's something, and this is almost a Crofton line of reasoning, which I want to take, but I will. But there's something in human beings where you have to look at like the whole, and like people want to take recreational drugs. Like it's like you try to make it illegal, you try to make it hard to get. People will find ways to get it, and to try to legislate to say, oh, this is wrong or whatever. I think most of us agree, like, it's not necessarily wrong. You may choose or choose not to do it, but you can't just say this is wrong and we'll make a law against it, because it doesn't really do anything. The people who want to do it will. The people who have problems and use it to help alleviate those problems will definitely still do it. They'll also just be criminalized.
I think that's the issue, because you say it doesn't do anything, but it does something really major, which is it criminalizes a subset of the population, or make and like I didn't see your Ken Burns prohibition marathon on TV, but I'm curious about like booze isn't as much as dangerous as other drugs, but like the safeguards against
It
something.
is.
Bo was no, I mean in terms of like how it's made or and put together. Like Bo was talking about his weed being laced with other stuff, right?
But that was but during Prohibition, there was hundreds of people who died and went blind from drinking alcohol laced with wood alcohol, which is
Okay.
toxic.
Fair. See, I didn't
So
watch
the exact same thing happened when it was criminalized. So when,
exactly. So that's the point. I'm so now we're doing all these other drugs that are on the wrong side of the legal line are not being inspected or not being treated, and the people who are using them are going to be they're going to be stuck with meth mouth or whatever we're calling it, because partly because they're forced to become ostracized from society due to their lifestyle choices, and so that sucks, and that's horrible. Sorry, Bo. Yeah.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, I can wait for you to finish. I can slide in on that point. On what you guys are talking about. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like that annoys me. The lifestyle choice, the people being ostracized, and I think I agree with Mike in terms of, and again, libertarian bent on the legalities surrounding it. That said, the drugs themselves and whether people should be using them, and if that's a good thing, my feeling and my lifestyle has adjusted accordingly, is it's generally not a good thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well,
and so wait, my turn.
go ahead, Bill.
Because this is where the differences in how people approach recreational drugs and how it affects them is important part of this conversation. Because Crofton, let's do a thought experiment. Let's say you're the kind of guy, Friday night comes around, you like to do a line or two of coke and play Overwatch, and you don't have an addiction. It's just Friday night. you're like hot damn, we're gonna do a line or two. I'm gonna get some chips and pizza and Pepsi, line or two of coke, play Overwatch.
I play Tracer, so that'll be a hell of a trip.
Yeah. And then you tell me about your routine and how you like recreational use of cocaine. And it's me you're talking to. You're like, Bo, you should try it one Friday night. 2 weeks later, I've sold all of my things. I've robbed your house to buy coke. I like it.
Mouth.
Like because the problem is it's sort of down to personality and how it affects people differently. So like. The theory is you could do as a recreational drug. It could tax your life in some way. Maybe, over time you're less healthy, things like that. But there are other people who just nosedive in life who can't use it responsibly. And when there's enough people doing that, we have a conscience as a community, and we say, well, they've ruined it for everyone. We'd rather have a healthier overall society than for me to have my line of coke while I play Overwatch. I can probably just have the Pepsi and pizza and play Overwatch. So I think there's a little bit of that going on. Maybe I use Coke because it's an extreme example. It's probably not good, but like the marijuana examples like that, like it's vilified because there's a sense of social good associated with it, right or wrong. I mean, alcohol, people drink and drive all the time, still can kill people. It still happens. And I can see someone saying, frick, ban alcohol. You guys can't stop driving. Take it away from people.
But it doesn't work.
People who
They
drink and
tried it
drive,
already.
put them in front of a firing squad and kill them.
Ugh.
because they're killing
You'd
children.
run out of bullets,
They're
man.
running out of but
No.
the
It
point.
would not achieve.
I'm not saying we should do that. I'm saying I get why someone would think that.
Sure.
Because I hear about someone who gets killed by a drunk driver, and I want to say, fuck that person. They didn't
Wait, the drunk driver or the person who got killed?
the drunk driver.
Oh, right, good.
Right,
That makes
right.
sense.
Like, why aren't you smart enough not to do that? But we face these problems together as a community, and they keep cropping up, and they are linked to drugs, to
Yeah.
recreational.
Well,
use
like
of drugs.
okay, so but
legal
here's the
and
interesting-
illegal.
So those are all good points, and I think that the deal with recreational drugs, and this is not how we're doing it now, is like it's not about banning, criminalizing, and trying to have moral, authority over people to be like these are bad. You're a bad person if you do these drugs. It doesn't work. It's not going that way. And again, the car accident thing, you're drinking and driving. Yeah, everyone hates that. But there's car accidents anyways, and people die, and it's like, oh, that sucks, Or someone falls asleep at the wheel. That happens too. Like, oh, what are you gonna do? It's when there's a recreational drug involved, it just lets you know that you're like, okay, we need to set parameters on that. And I think that's where governments and any kind of legislative bodies can have some can do something useful. And I think part and parcel with that is education. It's like, what does this drug do? So it's like with alcohol, the hope is that people know, like, don't use it when you drive. It's like these are its effects, and then hopefully for someone like Bo, who has when he starts following Crofton down his 2 lines of coke on Friday night and some Overwatch, and then goes off the rails.
It was Saturday, but whatever.
I played Civilization all week and snorted like 5,000 lines of coke. Just one more line, please.
So, well, you want to go all night, Bo? You gotta. It's like what Eric Clapton says. When you wanna you do cocaine. That's what the song was about. It was about cocaine.
In the White Room.
It was about cocaine.
I couldn't remember how it went. So yeah, I think it's like educate people who have like those problems. Mental health problems, addiction, problems with addiction. There's something underlying that, and it's be like, yeah, we should try to help those people. Like recreational drugs probably shouldn't. You should tell people don't use those types of things. Now, I'll get into a little bit how I feel about some of these drugs, and I'll tell you, I'm pretty interested in recreational drugs, even though I do not do any, and honestly, I probably never will. But I'm super interested in the idea of them because I'm curious. I'm a curious person by nature. But I heard the educational message, and certainly ones like I'm not likely to ever do heroin, though I reserve the right. I always say this, and I feel this to be true for me, that if I'm like given a terminal diagnosis of something, like you got 4 months to live, you got stage 4 lung cancer, be like, someone score me
heroin and hookers.
Why the hell not? Like honestly, why not? Because it'll do something to your brain, and your brain is just the lens with which you view the universe. And people who in the 60s and all these drug trippers, they have different outlooks on life. And the ones that actually quite intrigue me are definitely the psychedelics. And again,
surprise.
Well,
no one.
but it's just because they sound interesting beyond just like, oh wow, everything feels really good and euphoric. Like I don't care that much about that. I'm a pretty happy person. I don't really need to feel euphoria. I'm halfway there already, so I feel pretty good. But psychedelics, apparently, you hear this idea of they dissolve your sense of self, and you can see the universe in a new way. And I think this is really intriguing. And there's they're starting to use these things more in treatment of people with psychological problems. But even I've heard that this thing really resonated with me. I'm just going to mention to you guys because we all have issues with this. Everybody who's living does. Mortality, right? We're all kind of scared of dying, and
I definitely am, and will totally own up to it.
Yeah, well, no, and good for you, because I think most people are. Like right now, my dad is 70, and he's been to the doctor a few times, and he gets so worried about this stuff. And sometimes I feel like he's getting older. He's 70. I don't know. I hope he's around for another 20 years, but who knows? The point is, he's scared of what's going on, and I think we all have this. And I heard this thing a long time ago, and it was basically they did this test with, I think it was LSD, and they also used psilocybin, which is mushrooms, where they had people who had terminal cancer and less than a year to live or whatever, and because of this diagnosis, were terribly depressed because they were gonna die, terrified of it. That's awful. That sounds like about the worst thing in the world for me. And apparently, something like 50% of the people who they did this with, they would give one treatment of psilocybin or LSD to these people, and then afterwards they would have no depression, and they were like, I see the world in a way I didn't see it before, and I don't mind dying. It's part of life. And I really find that really intriguing, because I think we all suffer from this, and sometimes you need something, and this is to take you out of yourself, to let you see something in a new way. And it can be hard to do that. And I think there are recreational drugs. Like that's why people do it. Not only just to feel good, I think, but to try to experience something different because we're stuck in our heads all the time.
And this
And
is
I
where
think
we.
that there are. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm interrupting, but I think this is where we get to art and how important drugs are to art.
Sure,
And,
absolutely.
they're really important. And I've read in literature side of things, I've read a lot of essays from people over the years professing cigarettes are great, opiates are great. I like drinking absinthe. Like for writing, definitely painting, like
Music,
performing
absolutely,
arts.
hugely.
Just before you guys go down that rabbit hole, I had like a devil's advocate point I wanted to play with Mike based on his because in other episodes, like I forget what was the episode recently. We were talking about amusement parks. We were talking about amusement parks, and we were talking about like taking rides and all this sort of stuff and having these sensory things. And your sort of take on it was like they should just go out there and rock climb and stop spending money at these places where they'd have to wait in line and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm butchering and paraphrasing, but like my thing is like could they not? You can see the world in a different way in many different ways. You can have different experiences. You can travel, you can skydive, you can scuba dive, you can do whatever. I guess why are drugs necessary? I guess
Like I think all those things are true. And I mean, for me, the little context of the ride thing was it like I find half of going to music park hell on earth waiting in lines. You can get the adrenaline rush. And I mean, frankly, that's why people do those things because they want the drugs in their brain to start flowing. Because when you like a ride or skydiving, you like that because adrenaline is coursing through your system. It's like your body's full of endorphins. You can do different things.
Isn't exercise part of also feeling good? Like
what is
exercise? Like
yeah,
hurting yourself.
It'll release endorphins for sure.
Just for the record, I found it hilarious how confused Bo seemed about that. He's like, isn't exercise?
I've heard this thing about exercise.
Doesn't that make you feel good? And I'm like, yes, Bo, it does. Maybe you should do it.
Bo's like, I'll try this PCP instead.
Yeah,
if I don't have to get up. But yeah, but I think so. Your point is interesting, and yes, you can experience a lot of stuff that way. But there's something that you can't do, which is change the way your brain perceives those events. And that's, I think, what's really intriguing to me. Now, I like the way I perceive things, and I like my brain as it is, but I'm like anyone. I got the same fears, and, I don't want to die, same as anyone else. But I also am someone who's quite rational, and I think a lot about, like, well, dying it's part of living. It's part of the universe. Why are we so terrified of it? And part of it is probably just because of how we're stuck looking at things. It's advantageous as a species, as a living creature, to never want to die. That's advantageous to a living creature. But that's based on the lens of how your mind views things. And if there are drugs which are able to like change the way your brain is processing everything in a way that dissolves that feeling, it can give you an experience that you can't achieve anywhere else. And I think that's really intriguing. And a lot of the psychedelics like that. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go out and do any psychedelics, but like I'm kind of in the back of my head, kind of reserving the rights.
You're open-minded
to these types of things, like especially like psilocybin, like mushrooms. I'm like, whatever. I know tons of people who've tried it. And like, oh, it's kind of interesting.
Just for the record, that was a good response. But I cut Bo's art redirection.
Oh yes, the art
short to ask you that because I want to. It was a good good point. But Bo, going back to the art stuff, and I touched on it with the rock and roll and stuff, and about how all my favorite musicians seem to be high. But what were you going to say there?
Well, I was going to say some of the greatest pieces of art that you appreciate, enjoy, even current stuff. Although, it's expanding your mind. You don't get some of these crazy ideas and these things without seeing the world differently and using drugs to provoke those states. Or it's just important. It's an important part of many of the stories behind art. And then Mike was going to talk about all the great rock music. Like Led Zeppelin wasn't Led Zeppelin without anyone being...
I was just going to say, like Led Zeppelin, the greatest band ever.
Like, if you like Led Zeppelin and you're anti-drugs, you need to like check yourself.
And also, it's because it made me think of something quite interesting. So say you're a musician doing these kinds of like especially LSD in the 60s and stuff like that, and making new kinds of music. And for sure, there was tons of new music exploded out of the 60s when drugs were kind of like, lots of people were experimenting with these types of things. And I can remember one time I was at work and I had a slow day and I watched a 17-minute version of Inagata Devita by Iron Butterfly. Definitely a psychedelic band. And if you just like close your eyes and listen to that, like it for 17 minutes, it's almost like you're on some kind of trip too. And it's really interesting to be like, it's like these people put into music some kind of experience they had on a hallucinogen. And I'm like, wow, what an amazing thing to share. And I encourage everyone right now after this show to go and listen to the 17-minute version live of Inagata Devita on YouTube. You won't regret it.
I think that sounds
And I
like
just
a great
mean, like,
idea.
new stuff has emerged from it, and other people will be. So think of like things that might have inspired other artists that didn't do drugs, but maybe their inspiration came from artists who did do drugs. There's no question that recreational drugs has impacted pop culture in general, and certainly art. I think that's a really good point about.
Yeah, no.
But no, I mean it's tough because it's like one of those things where yes, the songs that these talented folks ended up doing were about their experiences from drugs or pulled from that. But had they never had the drugs, would they have been as talented, or would they have come up with other songs or be inspired by other things? Like, I mean,
No. Think of your favorite actor, Matt Damon. Probably a raging drunk at some point. Like actors drink.
whoa.
And maybe that's not true all their lives, but a great
very good.
many actors enjoy the alcoholic beverage and would not be the actors you love and enjoy if they had to be vanilla their whole lives. Like they're
Look, and some people will produce amazing things without drugs.
Yeah.
And a lot of these types of things come from people. There's lots of like people who are borderline crazy. Like Isaac Newton was kind of a nut job, but he saw the universe in a different way. The point is, like, we can't all be nut jobs, so some of us need to just take drugs, to get a different way of looking at things.
It's true. It's true when you frame it like that, I guess. But I mean, like, that's a positive, and I give you full credit for drawing a positive out of it. But then it's like there's tons and tons and tons of people that have died due to drug addiction to recreational drugs, like millions of people likely, and so yes, there's been some good art that's come out of it. Does that balance the ledgers? I'm not convinced.
I still just think though that's a bit of conflating things, because I agree. So a couple things that I think are really, you touched on it. The whole war against drugs has put this dominant culture, especially people like us who are not heavy recreational drug users. It's stuff like some drugs will kill you, like right now fentanyl and carfentanil. Like, I like how these things ramp up. It's like two grains of fentanyl can kill you, and then they'll be like carfentanil, 100 times more powerful than fentanyl. It's like, if your brother takes it, you might die. That's how strong it is. It's kind of ridiculous. But like this stuff, so you're like, yeah, okay, I don't want no carfentanil in my weed, and that's a problem. And that's part of the legal stuff, right? So when it's illegal, unscrupulous people looking to make money will put shit in their drugs. So if you can have it legal, so I think you can eliminate a lot of that scary stuff if you had like a place you could buy drugs that a third party was like, you know what, we test their drugs, it's highly regulated, these drugs are all good. You get away from a lot of that, like, oh, I took a pill and then I died. Okay, that's one thing. And then the other thing is that, again, I think this is conflating of things. So there's a lot of people who go down this road to death. It's ultimately, the drug might be the mechanism, but the root is trauma, mental health issues, and those are big things that we need to address. But I think saying like getting rid of drugs does not get rid of those things, and we know that already.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's not conflating in so much as saying that the drugs create good music, and it's not the individuals, right? Like it's like if you said guns, guns are good because it's not them that kill people, it's the people and the situation and all that sort of stuff, and their life issues that get them to that point. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. You can make that argument, but it's also the guns. And so, like for me, the drugs, yes, you can talk about like the numbers are so high of deaths, and you can be like, yes, the illegality, yeah, that contributes to it, and yes, people's life circumstances. But I think I think in the end, like these drugs, a large amount of them are dangerously addictive, and there are people that don't. I don't want to point at Bo, but like we know that he is more there are
Yeah,
people that
I'm notorious for every time anything remotely close to drug, everyone's like, Bo has addictive personality. Keep him away.
Bo
from
has
it.
an
Don't touch this, Bo. Don't
there
touch
are
it.
people with addictive personalities, and of course they're gonna jump on the drug train a little harder. But I just think it's really to whitewash these dangers, many of which are very dangerous drugs, even to be taken in small quantities. Like I want to in a way too. I want to be like, oh yeah, free spirit, open mind, libertarian, no rules, but like no restrictions rather on these things. We should be able to put in what we want in our bodies, but most of this stuff is like, or a large part of it is poisonous in some quantity. We're not doing benefits to our body. Sometimes there's painkillers. There's stuff like marijuana has definitely medicinal elements, but like heroin and morphine, which are used for in medicinal practices, aren't necessarily healthy in and of themselves. Almost none of this stuff is healthy.
But again, that's still like even like alcohol is extremely unhealthy if you abuse it. Alcohol, if you take it in small quantities, there is a noted health benefit. But the people who are problem drinkers, they don't have one drink a couple times a week. They drink 10 drinks every day. So that's a problem. And some of the people like me who do drink are so light a drinker that is like, I don't even get the health benefit because I drink a beer once every like 3 months. But if you drink a couple beers or a couple glasses of wine a week, there is a health benefit to that. And this is true of other, some people argue that marijuana has some of this too.
Yeah,
People
and I
who
agree
abuse
with
it,
those ones for sure. There's certain, but like to say like just do one line of Coke a month and maybe there's some health benefits to it.
I don't know.
Maybe there is, but cocaine is literally used as an example of something that is ridiculously addictive. Like people say it's addictive like Coke, like so.
Yeah, but
I
think there's a bit of like myth making.
There's
that
a
happens.
bit, but not 100%.
Because I remember definitely, and for sure things like opiates, I would avoid like the plague, and I don't know what's true and what's not, but I definitely am afraid of like heroin really frightens me, the idea of it, to be like, oh, you take it and then you're just like, I gotta have more. I don't ever want to live my life like that.
I think it was the train spotting scene where recovering from the sickness. It's like it looks horrible.
Just in general, the idea that something you try once and then all of a sudden it means more to you than anything else in your life is a terrifying thought to me. Again, I don't know how much of that is true or not true, and I think that there's some truth in it, and there's definitely some mistruth in it, because again, there's been an active and concerted effort to paint them that way. I don't know, but you do know stuff like opium's been used for thousands and thousands of years, cocaine's been used for thousands of years, in different forms, less potent forms, and that's an interesting point again as well. People keep ramping these things up. This is the conversation with marijuana today in our country, where it's like, oh yeah, the marijuana in the 60s is like, it's a third as strong as it is now or whatever. So it's different. But again, that's for me, it'd be like, I'm not going to touch some of these things because I don't trust the sources, and I don't crave it that much. But just my whole like LSD thing and being like, oh, if I'm gonna die and I'm scared, I'd like to get some LSD. And it's still the idea of it worries me that I'm like, I couldn't get any that doesn't have like, yeah, I got you some LSD. It might have some carfentanil in it, which gets you really high, but there's mostly LSD. I'd be like, damn it, I don't know, because you can't trust where it comes from, and that bothers me. Like, so I would want recreational drugs to be like, they're.
Are you worried a little bit you might try it too late? Like, let's say you get your prognosis and you're going to die, so you're like, speak, give me the LSD. You take the LSD and you're like, Man, why did I do this 20 years ago? I feel great.
Well, I mean, it's not even to feel great. It's more just to have different perspectives.
Well,
Things
whatever. That's
like
what I mean. Like, I should have
like
done this 20 years ago, kind of thing.
I mean, but I don't know. But maybe I'm more open to doing something like psilocybin,
That'll be our
which
next
just eat the
Patreon goal.
mushroom.
Will be Mike Mike trying LSD.
Well, because I feel like at least with that, I remember when I was traveling in Thailand, there was a lot of, even though you could apparently be executed for having drugs down there, everyone was doing drugs everywhere, except me, because I was doing that stuff. I was at some place, and I remember there was like this Australian dude. He was super drunk already, and he was smoking weed. He's this big guy, and I don't know. We were at this place, and someone brought on this little plastic cup, and it was just full of mushrooms. And it was all like dirt and stuff was in them, and he was already so gone. I just remember him going like ah, la, 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 and eating this like glass full of mushrooms. And I remember thinking like that guy is gonna have a hell of a night because he was already like super drunk. And it's also that like mixing of like 5 different things. I'm like, I don't think that's a good practice either, to be like, I'm super drunk, get me some weed, mushrooms, yeah, bring those on too. It's like, I'd be like, slow down, buddy, slow down.
All right. Well, speaking of slowing down, I think we're winding up into verdict land here. So, you guys have anything else that we need to? You guys, you guys have your opinions.
I'm ready.
All right, then we're gonna bring in the farm animals. Here they come. Wait, there they go. Verdict time.
Order, I say. Order in the court.
Order in the court. All right, it's time for verdicts. Crofton, you want to step up first since you're host?
Yeah, I'll go first here. Just one second. So
now he's ready.
Oh boy. Yeah, no, I found this one pretty tricky for the reasons I outlined at the beginning, just like the sort of brainwashing conditioning that Mike and I talked about, that, we've gone through growing up through the Reagan era war on drugs, and that whole element of drugs being bad, and a lot of the points that he made about the criminality of it leading to a lot more addictiveness is totally right. And I like a good classic rock tune as much as the next person, and I think if you did a Venn diagram of all music since the birth of rock and roll, half of it would be about sex and the other half would be about drugs, and then there would be a middle ground that's about sex and drugs. Oh, of course, there'd be a third one that'd be about rock and roll. So it'd be and then there'd be the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So I totally appreciate, I appreciate that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, tons of families and individuals being totally destroyed due to drugs. I'm including alcohol. I'm including pretty much everything, as there's I'm not sure if you guys have ever watched a show like Intervention or whatever. Actually, I shouldn't ask you questions for my verdict, but it's really depressing and sobering to watch these things, and recognizing how much people that seem generally well adjusted at home and stuff can have issues with drugs as well. And does that mean that I lay this at the foot of all drugs? No, it just means that I recognize that there's a lot of negative that comes out of it. And me being in a position where I choose not to partake in drugs, but recreationally, but recognize both the allure in pop culture and how they've been brought up to be a thing that people who are cool will do, at least at some level, and sort of having raged against that for a part of my life, and at the same point at this part of my life raging against the fact that I've been conditioned to think that they're bad, puts a lot of biases in my head. It makes this topic a really tough one to deliver a verdict on. All episode I was going back and forth between bad and bullshit, and I think that I'm gonna have to go with my gut on this one. And I have a lot of negative feelings with regards to recreational drugs, for better or for worse. So I'm gonna go and say that recreational drugs, due to all the issues that they've contributed to, are bad. So I'm gonna say bad. But it was not an easy one for me, and I could have just as easy said bullshit.
All right, well, Mike's.
But there's.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Mike
Oh,
seems to be gathering
you're
power.
desperate to go last, are you?
No,
wanna go
no.
last?
Mike's gonna
You
go
go
last.
last, you
Mike's gonna go last. I see him like gathering his juices up.
Well,
so,
I'm still
It's
kind
like
of
a Dragon Ball Z character on
yeah,
drugs.
I can see him. So I'll give him some time. I'll give him some time to recharge. So drugs. They're a lot of fun.
eating this bow.
With my limited, the extensive experience from a limited pool of recreational drugs, they were good. I did have problems managing my life with certain ones of them, but it's hard to separate whether that was a maturity issue or the fact that I am non-functional with drugs, because I don't think I've ever had a problem with alcohol, even when I drank it a lot. I went to work, stuff like that, but certainly loved to sleep when I smoked weed. And with the oncoming legalization, I'm wondering if I can be responsible and enjoy the odd joint. But it might not just be for me. I also get kind of anxious on it. It's not all fun and games. Sometimes recreational drugs backfire and you end up feeling worse. And that's something we didn't really talk about too much, but that happens. But overall, I think a lot of good points were elucidated. Outlined. Is it elucidate the right use of that word? Were outlined in the show. I think we have a lot of great art, and a lot of great ideas came from people who use drugs that have made claims that it inspired them and affected them in positive ways. So they're fun. There are some negatives, and I agree with our social concern to help manage and maintain those things. But I have to lay that at the fault of people and not at the fault of recreational drugs. So I'm going to say the recreational use of drugs is good. There you go.
A rare good verdict from both.
You mean a
Again,
frequent
just
good verdict.
For those of you following at home, for recreational drugs, good. Education system, bad. Bo Schwartz, everybody.
They go hand in hand.
We wouldn't have some of the great things that we know and love today in the art world without them. So I'm not going to give them a bad verdict.
Yeah, Crofton thinks residential schools were good.
What?
Well, you were just shitting on Bo for not liking the education system. He's clearly had some bad things.
I'm just telling you right now that Bo is just pretty much pissed on everyone who ever died of drugs.
He's trying to paint me as
hush.
a dirty drug user. He's doing
Hush.
it right now.
My verdict.
Oh yeah, you're not done.
Yeah, I've had a lot of trouble with this one, I must say. And again, this comes from, I appreciated Crofton laying out all his biases that he had at the start. I have probably a lot of the same ones too. And was always someone, when I was young, that was pretty able to resist those, there's always worries about like peer pressure when you're too young, people saying, try this, try that. I never had a problem saying like, meh, no, and didn't really have the need to. And I feel, good about that I didn't do drugs at a young age, because I think that's another huge issue we didn't even talk about. It's young people experimenting, and I think it's a whole other can of worms. And sort of my attitude on this really is like, if you're like, try to take it as like the best case scenario. You're a well-balanced person, you're healthy, you feel good, you know yourself inside and out, you don't have any mental health issues, all this stuff. If you strip all that stuff away, and for whatever reason you decide to try some recreational drugs, I'm like, great, that's awesome. You're very well educated about the drug you're going to use, blah blah blah. Then I'm like, good, hands down, that I'd say that's good, because a lot of people would just choose to be like, no, I don't think I will. But someone else wants to, I'm not going to hold moral judgment on them, and I think that's the kind of thing we should be aiming for. The problem is that it's not like that. A lot of people, many people are experimenting with these drugs when they're not ready, when they're in vulnerable places in their lives, and the effects can clearly be detrimental. Now, I really think there is a place for these things, that they could be eye-opening and change your life in a positive way, as they have done with a lot of people. Like, a lot of people have died, and a lot of people have altered the way they've lived in positive ways, in ways of like compassion and understanding of others, in ways they didn't experience before trying drugs. Like this is things you'll hear from people who experiment with psychedelics. Interesting stuff, possibly beneficial stuff. But the state of things right now is like, who knows? It's such a mess because things are half illegal. You don't know what's in what you're getting, what's in what you're taking. Just the other day in the park behind my house, we found this like tray. There's children all around this park with a joint in it and a little white pill, which is in all likelihood ecstasy, just sitting there. And I was like freaked out. I'm like, this should not be here. There's kids all around, And these
Nice
days,
neighborhood you live in, Hodgins.
I know. I should have said. So of course I took the pill. 18 hours later, I woke up halfway across the country. But the point is, the pill there's children around, and it's just like, and these days I'm like, there could be fentanyl in it. You don't know. You can't trust your local drug pusher to be like, this is the best stuff. I harvested it myself in the mountains of Colombia, and perfectly refined. Like you don't know, and that's the reality of what we're dealing with. People with mental health issues are using drugs. They're dirty. They're illegal. All this stuff, and that stuff's bad, right? So for me, the clear verdict on this one is that recreational drugs, for the time being, are bullshit. But I kind of lean, Bo's way in the sense that I really think
You're libertarian.
they could be. Yeah, well, I don't hold moral judgment on anyone, and for someone who's got mental health problems and is trying to like get rid of the feelings through the drugs, I have ultimate sympathy and compassion for those people. And that's probably not the solution they're looking for, but they might not have access to the proper one. So I think things are conflated in this issue, and it is a messy one, but an enjoyable conversation nonetheless.
Speaking of enjoyable conversations, if you have a feedback that you want to...
Wait, something's coming. Hang on, we gotta do this first. It's coming in.
Hey, the bird's going to boat.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, we got a piece of mail. Piece of mail came in. The bird delivered mail. It's Crofton's favorite sound. I don't think we've heard that sound in a really, really long time.
I don't even remember what that sound was.
Yeah, so that's the sound of the bird delivering mail to our mailbox. So let me walk on over and see what's in here. Oh.
Well, hurry up, because I think this episode's going crazy long. So.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We got a message from one of our patrons, actually. You can support us over at patreon.com, like 4 wonderful people did. By the way, we got another patron today who also wants to see Mike talk to a wall. Anyway, so this is from Lennart. I think he's from Sweden. So it's good old Lennart.
I remember Lennart.
Yeah. Thank you for writing in. And he says, "Hello, GBB hosts. I want to thank you for the latest episode, GBB 199 Vaccines. It was excellent. You managed to illustrate the different aspects of the issue in a very enjoyable way. Vaccines are accepted as a good thing by most of the population, I think, at least here in Sweden. But it still pops up groups of people that have misinformed and dangerous opinions about vaccines. For that reason, it's an important issue to discuss, even if it's a slam dunk and all of you agree. Episode was funny, interesting, and informative. Awesome." So it's always good to get positive feedback. So
Thank you, Lennart.
Yeah,
to be honest,
Lennart.
I was actually a bit worried. Well, I was a bit worried about that episode being a bit of an echo chamber. We did talk a lot about it, but it is funny because Lennart's from a part of the world that I think even in Canada we hear idealize as kind of the most progressive, forward thinking on so many things. And so it is interesting, like, he probably comes from a place of, well, yeah, vaccines, it makes perfect sense. The argument that's happening in the States where it might seem completely ridiculous to them there. So
Yeah. I thought that was a pretty good episode too. I felt really engaged in that one, in that particular.
You kind of steered us through it, Bo. So
yeah, because I was pretty ignorant, and it turns out I wasn't so bad after all. And I think that'll be true of this episode too. This episode was pretty great, and we had a full spread this time. But
I think Bo loves the full spreads. The thing I would say,
especially when
though,
I'm high. Like there's full spread, and then they're smoking a joint and the full spread, which is way better. You know what? When weed becomes legal, we're gonna do an episode high. We should do that.
And Lennart provided us a great piece of positive feedback, but if you want to flame us too, that would be equally enjoyable. You can do that by sending an email to goodbadbull@gmail.com. We would love to be able to read that message on air and speak back to you. we stream this show live on twitch.tv/goodbadbull, generally Thursday evenings. We had a pretty active chat group today. We loved seeing people out there. We love hearing from people. Goodbadbull.com is where you can find all our latest episodes. Patreon.com/goodbadbull if you want to support and see Mike talk to more walls. At Goodbadbull on Twitter. Please follow us. You'll find out when all the latest episodes dropped. We are into the new 100 episodes. This is putting to bed our first episode in the new centennial, so pretty fun. We're also individuals of an individual nature, and if you want to reach us individually, you can. Let's start with the brains of this operation, the smart one, Mike. How can people follow you?
You can follow me at Twitter at ML Hodgins, where you can look forward to my forthcoming video of me talking to a wall for 20 minutes. I'm sure it'll be posted somewhere else too.
And you can follow me at Crofton Steers on Twitter. Oh, and the third one. Bo, where can they follow you on Twitter?
You can follow me on Twitter at Bo Schwartz, and you can find out all my goings-ons as theirs.
He's the most active. He's worth following, folks. I endorse him.
And I know we don't like to do this, but we're wrapping up the show, so it's okay. But we did have a question from our live stream audience. Podcast
nice.
Listeners, just so you know, we video live stream it on Twitch for Mike. And he says, is it true Mike was in Degrassi High? And
it is true. Yeah, that's true. 100%.
I don't know where that came from, but
so dated. I was Wheels.
Yeah,
actually, I think that dude's dead.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Was it from Recreational Drugs?
Snake,
that would be perfect.
Oh, it might have been Snake.
You know who was in Degrassi? Drake.
Yeah.
Drake.
That's Degrassi, the new generation. And I think everybody does know that.
We're talking classic Degrassi.
I will say that one thing I find always humorous about Degrassi is Snake is perhaps the guy that least looks like somebody called Snake I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he's like tall dork.
Yeah, like when you hear the name Snake and you're like, I'm gonna Google someone like the guy from The Simpsons jumps to mind, but definitely Snake from Degrassi, not top 5 Snakes.
And unfortunately, I wasn't able to be in that show because I think I was too young for the first round and too old for the second round. But maybe when they do a Degrassi retirement residence show, I'll be one of the old men in there.
I wonder where that rumor started. Some folks have probably been talking about you, Mike.
Probably.
Also, do you know Bill Paxton was he dead? Is he dead?
Yes, he's dead. Jeez, have some respect.
I think I knew he was dead, but then it's like I found out he was dead again today.
Oh, that's the worst, eh?
It's fairly recent, eh?
I hate when you double dead. It's like you're like, oh man, I'm gonna listen to some sweet David Bowie. What's he up to these days? Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, he didn't die that long ago, I think.
There's some guy who did some drugs.
What, Ziggy Stardust, you think?
I also like how the Beatles did Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and we're like, it's not about LSD. And you're like, well, the title and lyrics seem to suggest otherwise, but sure, whatever.
I'm not sure have you ever seen this show on Netflix, Beat Bugs? Have you watched this yet? So it's essentially a show where each episode is, it's for children. It's a CG show. It's about bugs living in a garden. But each episode is about a song of the Beatles. And they do all sorts of scripting to have the characters end up in a situation where they can sing the song from the Beatles. And some of them are really easy. Like it's easy to write stories where that would be the case, like Help or Get Back or songs like that. But like some Beatles songs that they have episodes on, like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band or Back in the USSR, are very tricky to develop a children's episode around.
Well, but they might not do them all.
They did have one for Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
What was it about where the kid's father went to jail after doing legal drugs and then they sang the song?
No, it was about a fairy named Lucy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good take.
Yeah, you should watch it.
I'll
It's
have
good.
to check it. Yeah, I'll check it out. Maybe
It's
sometime.
good for you. Have to be at least 3 and up, I think, to watch it though.
Yeah, I qualify.
All right, Bo.
Well, I
tune
guess
out.
that's it. Bo's done.
Sorry, I'm like
Got
my
nothing else to
brain's
say.
fried.
It was a long one. If you can find a spot to end it.
Yeah, I think so. Probably on. Did you guys know Bill Paxton's dead and just
The old double dead.
the old double dead? Yeah, so I probably have a spot there. All right, well, that's the show. I'm gonna stop recording now. Thanks so much to the live chat today. You guys were incredible. We got I think a record number of viewers for us on the live stream recording, and there's a lot of conversation going on in there today. And
I saw also that Clown Baby wrote in there that about Sid Barrett from where was it? Pink Floyd died, drugs, but also the deal with him. He was also mental health issues. But was his death worth those good songs Roger Waters wrote? I think we can all agree, yes.
yeah, no, well, I mean that's
May he rest in peace.
it's kind of the pact. I think when you make it as an artist, is you are all in on your art and in your way. Like it's not becoming an artist is not like applying for a job at a corporation and being a rational person. You're like, I should be safe so that I can raise my kids properly. You're like, I need to see the fields of yellow and blue in my vision so I can.
It's a different kind of person to go into
Yeah.
that.
You can't
And
rationalize it like you would in our rational, safe raising children lives.
Beatbugs tweeted back at me. Sweet.
Who's Beat Bugs?
The TV show I talked about.
Oh, they tweeted at you.
I tweeted at them first, but then they tweeted back at me. So anyway,
What is
whatever.
It? Beat Bugs?
Yeah.
Wait, I want to
It's
see now.
Beatbugs.
I want to see what this is all about.
It looks like what you would imagine. It looks like A Bug's Life. You remember that Pixar movie? It's essentially that, except in TV show form with the Beatles music.
I need to remember that because I really despise a lot of the children's shows I end up watching, and that one sounds appealing.
Yeah, it's pretty good for a kid show.
Oh, they
Those-
they quote retweeted you.
Yeah,
Anyway.
sweet. Yeah,
Yeah, to the
it's like I'm a celebrity in the Beatbugs world now.
yeah, your
Oh,
notifications
incidentally,
are
I
all-
was on everybody. Everybody listens to All in a Day on CBC. You ever like I just tweeted back at the All in a Day account. They were asking what film soundtracks are you most embarrassed to love. I said Shrek 2.
You got to
I guess they read it on it. They read that on air.
But you always crap on the CBC.
No, I don't.
When do you
crap
listen
on
to it?
I just don't listen to the radio.
Well, when do you
period.
listen to All in a Day?
I don't. I didn't hear it.
You just tweeted at them.
Well, they asked a
You're like a
question.
troll.
I follow a bunch of stuff, and they asked the question on Twitter. I was like, well, I am embarrassed about my love
It's funny
for the
because I
Shrek
do listen to
soundtrack.
that, and it's funny that I would have been. I missed that because it would have been funny.
I got a bunch of random messages from people being like, "Hey, heard you on CBC All in a Day." I was like, "What the hell?" They read that tweet? Whatever.
They're just looking for something to fill time, right?
Yeah, which is funny because there's this store in my neighborhood that plays the Shrek 2 soundtrack on loop all day. Well, not all day, but like whenever I'm in, they're playing this too. And they think I don't know that it's the Shrek 2 soundtrack, but man, I know.
I have in my car. I have the CD that's been in my car. It's followed me through multiple cars actually. It's the only CD that's in the player. And when I put it on CD, it's the soundtrack to "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou."
Oh yeah.
It's so good, and it's like occasionally, you listen to I'll go for months without playing it, listen to the radio, this or that or whatever, and then I'll put the CD on, and it's like this kind of like old time bluegrass kind of music and southern gospel kind of stuff. It's really good, and it's just I never hear anything like it in the radio. I love that soundtrack,
Well,
man.
see, the thing about that soundtrack, first off, that's not an embarrassing soundtrack to like. That's one of the ones that's considered like top soundtrack. And the other thing about it is, if I ever heard that one, I would know immediately what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
Whereas like the fact that I can identify the Shrek 2 soundtrack immediately from any song is really sad.
I'm impressed by it actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you should be.
Doesn't it have that song like "Somebody once told me that blah blah"? That
That's
song
no, that's Shrek 1.
is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
See,
Sorry,
you're
Compton,
talking
I
about
forgot you're the. No.
you're
I
talking
don't have-
about "Hey Now, I'm a rock star. Get your game on, go play."
Yeah.
That song. Yeah.
That song.
All right, I'm gonna take a moment
they
here.
did that. They did that song on drugs.
Probably,
Probably.
probably.
When they were writing, they felt like a rock star, and then they.
Yeah, there's a lot of rough. I mean, there's rough drafts, and there's so drugs can't help some people. I just want to say thank you again to the chat room. There's a lot of you in there right now. It's a record amount of viewers for us. We love having you here, and we hope you found the conversation enjoyable. But with that, it's time for the show to end.
All right,
So-
but Bo's desperate to get his heroes on.
I don't have much time to play. I'm probably just gonna grab a game and go to bed. No hero streaming tonight.
Like, there's no time to play. I'll probably just play anyways, and then stop.
All right. Have a good night, chat room. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are amazing.
Bye,
And with
guys.
that, I bid you farewell.